Okay, it is October the 22nd, Sunday evening, about 40 minutes after the weekly open. Let's go ahead and run through the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So let's do the boring stuff first. Let's start off with the news events. Really, there's like more or less nothing to really worry about this week. The only event that's even worth noting is that on Thursday, we have the European Central Bank conference. So maybe there's some volatility around that, but other than that, you have a couple of random U.S. events here and there. Powell is speaking on Wednesday, so maybe he creates some vol from that, but ultimately there's no major events this week to worry about. Let's go ahead and get into the Bitcoin plans. So let's start off with the higher time frame. So where we're at is we're trading into what would be the high of the current macro distribution. We can pretty much define from March until now as one large distribution, and we're trading into the highs of it currently. So this is kind of the key decision point where we're trying to decide if we want to be bullish for continuation or kind of fade this for reversion. So ultimately where I'm leaning with higher time frame is I am bullish, but I would say that I'm conservative bullish in the sense that I don't want to get carried away with myself and get caught up in the euphoria that it seems like everybody else is. This could easily lead to some shorter term reversion, even if it's going to result to the upside in the longer run. So what I'm looking at right now, or let me start off with what our original plan was. Let's go to the Coinbase chart so I can show these comps. Ignore these doodles for the time being. This 28.8 comp, 28.8 thousand comp low, plus the HVN that you can't really see here, was the major invalidation for bearishness, and we kind of blasted through that. So the kind of two plans that we had talked about, let's go back to the Binance chart really quickly. The two major plans that we had talked about for invalidation was either one, the more calm and less likely scenario where we kind of traded through the resistance and kind of chopped around and accepted and then maybe traded higher from there, or just traded through it aggressively and then probably saw some continuation. So it looks like we're getting this type of scenario, but my main concern right now is that just because my plan got invalidated doesn't, for bearishness doesn't mean that I want to be just turbo risk on into resistance. What I wanted to talk about was there's always the possibility that this ends up doing some sort of minor pullback. What the most likely kind of reversion scenario would be us trading up a little bit to kind of sweep the current highs and source liquidity to trade back down into this HVN that overlaps with the current quarterly. This would be a ridiculously good area to bet on long continuation if we were to do some sort of move like this, to actually target into the standard deviation band highs from last year around 35K. So that's kind of what I think might happen. I think that this would really catch a lot of people off guard if we were to do something like this. People are definitely feeling pretty euphoric right now and feeling very confident in the bull trend. And ultimately, until bulls have really gotten through this kind of 31K zone, I don't think it makes sense to be overly, to be too optimistic. So to be clear, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to be a pessimist and trying to say that we're going to revert down or anything, because I am overall bullish. My original bearish invalidation has taken place, and we've seen true demand coming into the market. We've actually seen real spot buying. The original push up into this area was off of the back of shorts closing out, but this kind of retest where we've traded back in and filled out the wick has been off of a lot of pretty obvious, blatant, if you will, spot TWAPs that we were talking about on the Friday stream. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with the higher time frame. Is essentially I'm definitely leaning bullish, and I would like to see some sort of bullish setups going into the week so I can bet on continuation. But I am trying to be keep myself in check, just because of what I'm seeing from everybody else, essentially, that there's that kind of gut feeling that I'm getting that people are maybe getting a little bit carried away. And if we were to pull back like $2,000 into the 28K zone, that would really obliterate a lot of the overly optimistic and overly, aggressively positioned longers. And then we could see upside continuation from there. So what I'll be looking at for the shorter term is if we kind of lose this HVN, which overlaps with the current yearly deviation, so call it 29.2. So we have about 800 point downside potential. If we trade down 800 points and then lose that, then that would be shorter term invalidation for bullishness. So to be clear, 29.2 is roughly what I think we should be using for invalidation. If we trade below that, I think that we should be a little bit more conservative and potentially be looking to buy the dip into the 28s, maybe 27s at the lowest. And then if we do, basically trade up from here, it's either going to be the name of the game is either going to be chasing aggressive Bitcoin longs or chasing beta, which most altcoins still look pretty bad, but there are definitely a few really strong performers right now. One potential scenario also could be to chase it on ETH, because if Bitcoin legs up, another couple $1,000s, ETH generally lags. So that could be a play as well. So hopefully everything's kind of clear. This is a little bit less of a structured view than I normally would give, but that's kind of where I'm at right now with my view. Is I don't really have like a concrete structured view the way that I normally would. We're in a very tricky area where, because I got invalidated on my bearishness, it definitely makes sense to want to trade upwards. However, I don't want to get too carried away with and be just a complete bulltard, because we're trading into, more resistance points, right? 30K is still a major resistance point. If, we trade up another 1,000 points, do I think 3,100 is going to stop us? Probably not. Like we talked about on the stream last Friday, generally the rule in crypto is the third tap into resistance is the one that you blast through it. So if we trade into 31K again, we're probably going to yeet right through it. Which means that we would be trading up towards, 33, 34, potentially all the way up to 35. I think I've gotten my point across. For more information, check out the Paragon group with the link below, where I cover everything from how I trade to how you can develop your own style. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to altcoins here. So like I said earlier, most altcoins still look really, really bad. So I'm really not too concerned with playing the majority of them, but there's a few here to cover here and there. WorldCoin could potentially be looking for bullish continuation. On Friday's stream, I was telling you guys it looked pretty bearish, but did a pretty decent reclaim this weekend. So, it's building a nice, kind of composite here. So if it starts to break to the upside, we could probably see some continuation here. For WorldCoin, I'm not going to try to send any swings on it or anything. Primarily, would be just looking to scalp it if so. TRB is just absolute beast on its own, right, guys? This thing blasted off recently and just obliterated shorts on this candle. If we were to see some sort of kind of pullback on TRB, either into this kind of either the steeper pullback, which would be HVN plus quarterly, or let's delete this, or the more shallow pullback, which is probably the more likely one, which is to find support off these singles. If it trades into these singles and bounces, then definitely makes sense to try to play long continuation on this one. One of the main ones we got to talk about is Link, though. And here's a really good lesson around why you guys normally hear that I just don't really try to swing short altcoins all that much. It's just not really my forte. So I caught a really great short on Link, and I just wanted to make this comparison here that I had to wait, probably 2 weeks to get a little bit over 10% on a short, which I didn't even lock it in fully at the bottom. My first half I did clip out at the bottom, and then the second half, I only clipped out for probably like 7 or 8%. I'd have to check my journal, I don't remember. All that effort, all that time for essentially like a 10% trade. And then when we look at what Link did, in just a couple of days, it went almost 40%, right? So this is a really good example of why I just don't care to swing short on altcoins, and I pretty much only play long continuation on them or scalp. This is a perfect example of that lesson in real time. So as far as Link is concerned, I have no business playing around with it up here. I'm definitely not going to try to short Link or anything. If Link does some sort of pullback, one thing to look at is maybe go to the 30-minute. to identify some proper singles. So right here, if we saw a link do like a pullback into these singles right here, that would be a really good area to potentially go for a long. So I'm going to go ahead and slap in some alerts on that right now, just in case it wants to pull back. So to be clear, into the like 990 down to like 960, very, very good long continuation region off the singles, overlaps with this HVN as well. Maker definitely looks like it's good for continuation as well, and there's really not much to say on it, right? This is honestly a pretty decent area to take the long in. I wanted to take the long a little bit lower. Again, my alerts just, the story with Maker is my alerts are just always getting front run on this one. So that's pretty much it for shitcoins for the watch list. The other thing to mention, obviously, is if, tick rates do pick up on altcoins, I will go into scalper mode. I've been, basically retired from scalping for the past 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I don't really remember when you check my journal. The tick rates have just been really bad with altcoins, so there's been no reason to be trying to force scalps. But if the tick rate does come back on shitcoins, then you guys know me. I'm going to be more than happy to get in the books and start clicking again. That is my bread and butter, and definitely the way that I am most consistent with from a trading standpoint, right? I always kind of make the argument that blending swing trading and scalping is probably the best way to actually really accumulate capital, because when you can benefit from the larger momentum moves, that's when you can really stack up and have kind of large momentous wins. And then the scalping, when it's present, can be much more like a job where you can sit down for a few hours and grind it out and take home some money on a more consistent basis. So that's it for altcoin, guys. That's pretty much it for the week. Good luck out there, and hopefully Bitcoin trends up further and we get to go risk on and do some degenerate gambling. If not, it is what it is. Cheers, everybody.